What if I did this every week? Wow. I mean, if you do this every week for a year, just imagine how much you can get done and what kind of life you would be living. Mind-blowing. Traditional time management has taught you to do more and more things in less and less time, but today I want to propose to you something drastically different. I will explain to you a 6-step method that will help you free yourself from being a slave to the clock and help you focus on the things that are truly important to you. It takes you from running and rushing to really being present in the moment, capable of making decisions, thriving at your job, and being able to enjoy key moments in your life. And it will only take you 30 minutes a week. And to prove that it really works, I will take my own life, my own schedule as an example. You can follow along with the video, but I want to emphasize that every step of this method is crucial. So keep watching until the end, and I promise you that you will learn something that you can use for the rest of your life. So, the process of putting first things first, I didn't come up with this. I got it from the book First Things First, which I highly recommend for you to read. If you haven't done so already, I will put a link in the description for you where to find it, so you can buy it and read it yourself. But I distilled all the information of the chapter of the book that describes how you can plan your week, and I put it in slides and made the steps very explicit so we can go through them one by one. The first step of the 6-step method is connect with your vision and mission. Now, in the book, and also in the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the writer really emphasizes the necessity of having a personal mission. I also made a video on how to make a personal mission statement, and I also highly recommend you to watch that one. But for the sake of making a planning, it is not necessary that you have one. There are some things that you can quickly do, some questions that you need to answer for yourself that can give you already a feeling of what a personal mission would be like, and that can help you in creating importance and priority throughout the week. What will it help you to do? It will help you to connect what is most important to you, what gives your life meaning, and what do you want to be and what do you want to do in your life. And these things should be actually really at the core, at the foundation of what you are doing on a day-to-day basis, because otherwise you would simply not be moving into the direction that actually gets you to where you want to be and how you want to live your life. So the contrast that is also very clearly described in the book is being a slave to the clock or listening to your own moral compass, walking towards your own true north and cultivating these kind of things. So it makes a lot of sense to start off with that. So if you don't have a personal mission, there are a couple of things that you can do, and I did these things. I have a personal mission statement, but I haven't revised it for a while, to be honest. So I said I will just pretend like I don't have one and take you through the whole process to show you that it's really easy to do. These are the list of things that you need to do. So it's very important to write that down for yourself somewhere. I basically just took a Word document, copy pasted these questions, and then tried to answer them to get a clear idea for myself. So list 3 to 4 things that you would consider first things in your life. So things that are really important, that actually you would say, if I cannot do anything except for these, would my life make sense? So for me, what I wrote down is creating something that wasn't there before, so creativeness or pioneering, spending time with my loved ones, my girlfriend, my family, my close friends, having a positive impact in the world, and developing myself to become a better person. I think if you're on this channel, you're not surprised. Developing myself to become a better person is in principle the whole layout of the YouTube channel. Creating something is also very much involved in YouTube in itself, as you're creating content. And the other two are having a positive impact and spending time with people that I love. And this is really what drives me. So even in my occupation, in my day-to-day work, I think these are still the things that are really important to me. So think about that a little bit. Take some time to answer this question. I'm just going to go through them and give you my answers so you have kind of an idea of what it would look like. But of course, it can look completely different if you make it compared to when I make it. Consider any long-range goals you might set. So I have the goal to reach 1,000 YouTube subscribers, preferably by the end of the year. I know it's kind of a stretch. I'm currently at 211, but this is my goal. So I want to keep that in mind with my planning as well. I want to become a successful architect / successful member of my new group. So I recently switched groups and I am an architect now, and I want to be successful at that job, at that role, basically. I want to build a family, and I also want to be able to provide for my family a life of comfort and safety and enjoyment. Think about the most important relationships in your life. The things that come to my mind, for sure, my girlfriend / fiance, my sister, my parents, and my friends. I felt like this was maybe a bit generic, but I think this kind of holds true for everyone. The point is to keep that image in your mind of what are your important relationships. It's not actually with your boss. It's not actually with your planner. It's not, with all these things that we actually spend so much of our daily time with. Those are not necessarily the relationships that we value the most. So this is a bit of a wake-up call to make you realize and to put yourself in the right frame of mind for your week. Think about contributions you would like to make. So I would like to make a positive contribution to the world, help people, if I can, with the skills that I have. Because I also understand there are a lot of things that I really suck at, that I really cannot do, but there are a couple of things that I'm good at, and I hope that with these things, I can help other people that maybe suck at what I'm good at, basically. So I hope to help people with the skills that I have. And also one thing that I really find an inspiring thing to just consider, leave the place better than when you got there. And I want to see that, if you go to someone's house, if you go to a public place, but if you also consider being in the world, I want to leave the world a bit better than before I got here, if I can. And then reaffirm the feelings you want to have in your life. For instance, peace, confidence, happiness, contribution, and meaning. So for me, I want to feel fulfilled, loved, in the zone, and happy. So in the zone, I mean, like, I want to feel this fire within, where all things perfectly align, where time stands still but is also moving very fast, where you feel like you are doing exactly what you're supposed to do. This is a feeling that I really long for, let's say. Think about how you would spend this week if you knew you only had 6 months to live. Okay, this is a bit of a downer, but keep in mind, it's really to set the scene of distinguishing what is urgent versus what is important. Of course, if you add the end of your life to it, urgence and importance also kind of have a different meaning. Everything becomes urgent because you don't have that much time anymore. But I think the important things become urgent because you actually realize that, no, this is what I want to spend the last days of my life in. So for me, I'd make sure to call my friends this week, maybe meet some of them. I would read more scripture. I would try to focus at work on social interaction and empowering people to do their work well. And I'd have quality moments with my girlfriend. I think these are really the core things. I don't think I will stop working completely because I do really enjoy work, and it is a means for me to have an impact in the world, in a kind of community that I'm already in, with people that I also really like. So I think work also can give great meaning, at least to me. So that's why I wrote it down. So go through these points, write them down for yourself, think about it, and answers to that, you can just put that together, and that will be kind of your substitute for personal mission for now. After you did these things, ask yourself, what difference would a clear vision of my principles, values, and ultimate objectives make in the way I spend my time? So if you would have a very clear mission, do you see the value in that? Do you think that it would change the way you approach life? For me personally, I definitely felt that once I sat down and wrote down my personal mission, my personal private life mission, my work mission, how I want to act as a human being. This really gave me a nice reference frame to put myself in the world. And we will get back to that later, but realizing that you're not just an employee, you're actually way more than that. It's just one of your roles. How would I feel about my life if I knew what was ultimately important for me? Would a written statement of my life's purpose be valuable to me? Would it affect the way I spend my time and energy? And how would a weekly reconnection to such a statement affect the thing I choose to do during the week? So take some time to think about these questions in order to really set the frame of mind that you need for the next steps. You don't have to write this down. This is just something to reflect on. So the second step brings us to identifying your roles. So this is also something that you do when you create a personal mission, but in this case you can kind of review that, or you can even change it week by week. It might be the case that you don't get it right the first time, which is fine. You just start off in a bad way, which is already going to give you great results. And as you get better and better at following this methodology step by step, week by week, you will get even better and better results. So what I want you to do is come up with a maximum of 7 roles. This is because studies showed that it's easier for the brain to distinguish 7 things, and if there are more than that, it's just not so easy to remember them and to really keep them active in your mind. You can of course have less than 7. 7 is just the upper bound that your brain can handle on average, let's say. There is 1/8 role that is always there, that you cannot get rid of, which is called sharpening the saw. So sharpening the saw is also a concept from an earlier book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where it is explained that you need to keep improving your skill, or at least take a step back and recharge your skills or recharge yourself, so that you are not constantly producing, chopping or sawing wood, but you're also making sure that your saw gets restored into the original state, or even to a better state. So it can be personal development, it can be yoga, meditation, you name it, anything that would be considered rejuvenating or revitalizing process to you. So again, I also looked at myself. So I wrote down the 7 roles that I identify as. The 7 roles that I wrote down is architect. As I mentioned before, this is my specific role at my current job. So that is my role. I'm an architect. Second, boyfriend/fiance. Third, human being. I know this sounds a bit vague, but I feel like there is a role in which I think human beings should act in the world, that they have, I don't know, not necessarily maybe a duty, but a kind of meaning to it, and some ethics involved with that. So I wanted to capture that under one role. 4, creator, so being creative, creating stuff, creating content, etc. 5, a family member, means a brother and a son, for instance, being in that family community and being there for my family, seeing them regularly enough, for instance, can be a thing. 6, friend. I also want to really be a good friend to my friends, be there in times that they need me, invest in them, invest in friendship to make sure that it is something that also grows over time and becomes stronger and stronger. 7, a homeowner. I realized this recently, that once you bought a property, there is always something leaking, there's always something you need to do, so that's definitely also a role. And number 8, sharpening the saw. As I mentioned, this is something that you cannot get away from. So as you write down your roles, again, this is just an example of how I would do it. You should also go to the ask yourself questions again, to reflect and contemplate, not to write them down, but again, to put yourself in the right frame of mind, so that we can move on to the next step. So do I often find that I'm consumed by 1 or 2 roles in my life, and that the others do not receive the time and attention I'd like to give to them? So this is very common, and that's also why this exercise is so important. you start to see that actually commonly most of your time is spent by the role that probably describes your job. And you can even have multiple roles within your job, and you can see that one of your job roles is taking all of the space. And it's not so obvious that is really required, because you also have these other roles. And it's actually even less obvious that that is the way to make you most happy, because you have these other roles that you are currently not fulfilling very well. So realizing this, is there such a role that takes everything away from the rest? And how many of my first things are in roles other than those that receive the most of my time and attention? Do the roles I've selected work together to contribute to the fulfillment of my mission? So depending if you have a mission, of course, but do they collaborate in helping you fulfill your first things or your goals? Is it a collaboration, or they're really separate buckets? And what difference would it make in the quality of my life to consider these roles on a weekly basis and assure that my activities are appropriately balanced? Right? So also make sure what I wrote down at the top, don't see the roles as individual buckets, but as interconnected perspectives. Try to think about what kind of difference it would make if every role that you have is like a Lego piece in the great artwork, which is your life, that they all stick together, they all have their own individual role and purpose. And how would that change the quality of your life if that was the case? So moving on to step 3. Select quadrant 2 goals in each role. So quadrant 2 refers to the Eisenhower Matrix, or the time management matrix. I made a video where I described how that exactly works. I will link that video as well in the description. But for now, all you need to know is that the Eisenhower Matrix is a matrix between importance. So you have important and unimportant, and you have urgent and not urgent. And a quadrant 2 is actually an important and not urgent activity, which is where you should spend most of your time. Urgency is something you can get addicted to, as I also explained in one of my previous videos on urgency addiction. And what we want is to stay in quadrant 2 activities. So something for the long term, something proactive, something important. So for the 7 goals that you identified for yourself, write down what are 1 or 2 goals that you think that are most important that you could do for the coming week. So I also did that. I wrote that down per role. So for being an architect, I wrote down create an overview or overview slides for project A, finalize execution plans for project C, and prepare for meetings. These are really things that came to my mind, like if I would do these things, I would really make a great step forward into what it is that my role should do. And point C, I know I should only put 2, but C is more like a general importance thing. Try to be prepared for my meetings. What I now find is that I'm so crushed between meetings that I'm just running between them, and I cannot find the time to actually prepare, or what is the next meeting about? Did I need to prepare some slides, or what is my strategy going into this meeting? So I just wanted to add that as a third one, which is a bit of a cheat. Point number 2, as a boyfriend and fiance, my girlfriend has a big interview this week. So one thing that I definitely can do is try to support her and help her prepare for that interview this week. So I want to make sure that I have time set aside that I can feel good about, because it contributes to my goals, to help her out in whichever way that she feels like I could help her with. And then second point, start looking for hotels and do the honeymoon planning. Third, human being. I took that a bit like sharpening the saw actually, but in this case I think it's all right. So what I really want to do is sit down and read. I don't want to put there finish a whole book, but just take your time and enjoy and read. So it's really a kind of recharge, mental recharge, being curious kind of role and state of mind, and also play a game. So I love playing games, and I do it way too less. And I think that it always really inspires me, the puzzles and the environment and just the possibilities. I get a lot of creative ideas from playing games, and I should do it more, quite frankly. For the creator, so create a new YouTube video, which is what I'm currently working on, so that's already a good thing, and come up with an idea about the glow artwork. So I'm also collaborating with some people for a big event. It's a yearly event in the town that I used to live, and I need to kind of summarize an idea that we have. This would be one major action that I could take this week to help that along. As a family member, I want to reach out to my parents, see how they're doing. I haven't spoken with them in a while. I mean, I reached out to them through WhatsApp, but I think I'll just give them a call, like catch up. And then plan to meet my sister, which is also something that we've talked about for quite a while, but we haven't gotten around to. And she also has kids and is busy. So if I can take this action to plan to meet up with her, I think it would be a big win for both of us. Friend, have a call with a buddy of mine and make concrete plans to meet with a bunch of my friends. So I realized that this one specific buddy of mine, if we call, we always have great conversations and we have great ideas that we gain both from that, but we don't do it that much. And it's really a shame. We used to do it way more when we were younger, but then, stuff happened and it didn't happen so much anymore. But yeah, I just really want to pick that up. I think it was a good, we had it last week and I realized wow, we should do this more. So this is one thing I want to do, and meet up more friends, at least make plans to meet more friends, because not everything fits into 1 week. 7th, the homeowner. There are 2 actions. We need to order new drawers for the living room, but also we need to get rid of old ones that are already standing around for a very long time, and also a couch that we need to throw out. So I need to find a way to convince my fiance to throw this out. So this would be a huge action if I could get to do that. 8, sharpening a saw, going to the gym, and learn prayer. These are 2 things that I think they can help me revitalize myself, improve myself, be better at what I am currently doing already. Again, this is just an example. It maybe goes a bit in depth, but I wanted to be very clear that this is something that you can do in 30 minutes, and that's why I want to take you through the whole process of what I did. So if you did describe these 2 goals per role, then ask yourself, what would happen if I did these things during the coming week? How would I feel about the quality of my life? I think I would feel absolutely amazing. What if I only did some of them? Even if I did some of them, I think it already has a huge impact to the way I want to live. And to be honest, if I cannot do them, I would just move them to the next week and know that these are important things to look out for. What if I did this every week? Wow. I mean, if you do this every week for a year, just imagine how much you can get done and what kind of life you would be living. Mind-blowing. So step number 4, create a decision-making framework for the week. So I crossed out schedule, planning. It is, of course, still something like that, because we kind of need to do when we want to do what. But it's way more important about what we want to do and how we prioritize things according to what we already know will come up. But also, if something new comes up, how do we put that in the priority list? So what you want to do is you want to first fill your weekly planning with the goals that you have identified. So the quadrant 2 activities from the previous step, you want to take them and put them into your planning. So for every day of the week, schedule them as if you have real appointments and treat yourself as a stakeholder, so that if something even more important comes up and you need to reschedule, you reschedule immediately. So don't let it slide, don't let it go to waste. These are your most important things. And I don't want to go through the whole story, but I think a lot of people might know the story of the jar that you fill with rocks and sand and water. And if you first put in the sand and the stones, and the sand and the water, then it gets full and then you cannot fit in the rocks. But if you start with the big things, with the rocks, then you will be amazed how much sand and water you can still fit into the cracks. So the question is, what are your rocks and what is your sand and what is your water? You want your quadrant 2 activities to be your big rocks that you put in first. So you make sure that these things are taken care of if everything goes wrong. And the other stuff, things that, the urgent things that come up, that you might not feel very important, that they are just, you can do them if you have time, but it's not the key point, let's say. So for these activities, schedule time if necessary. If not, put it under a daily priority. And I will also show you how you can visualize that. Usually people work in Outlook where you have actually time planned schedules, which also works fine. I will show you that, no worry. And then add other necessary activities around it, like I said, so the water and the sand, and do not fill every moment of the day with time-sensitive appointments. So you really should allow for flexibility and realize that life is not the incarnation of a planning page. I found this a really nice statement because people sometimes see, okay, how is your day going? And then they look at their planner and they're like, busy, I guess. But life is more about the interactions you have with people and the things that maybe happen unexpectedly. So give also a bit of chance for something unexpected to happen. Then check yourself. So go through the activities that you have in your, let's call it calendar or planner if you want for now, and try to label the activities according to their quadrants to make sure that you are mainly working on quadrant 2 and quadrant 1 activities and not so much on 3 and 4, preferably none. Try to remove them as soon as you can. So for this, I also want to make it very crisp, and I actually prepared my a shareable calendar of myself, which is a real representation of the calendar of my week as it was yesterday. But I just anonymized a couple of the meetings so that I would not get into trouble at work. So, and as you can see, I color-coded the activities according to which quadrant they're in. So I have a bunch of meetings and alignments, which I do think are important, but not very urgent. But some people might say it's not very urgent, so why don't skip them? But actually, these are the things that keep you ahead, that keep you proactive, that make sure you know things before they happen. So you want to have your whole planner full with green activities, full with quadrant 2 activities. Then you have quadrant 1 activities, which are important and urgent. Luckily, I only have one, and I have a couple of red items, which are some, to me, it feels like an overflow of alignment meetings with the same people for way too much time. So two things can happen here. It might be that I don't see the importance of it, but that it's actually important, and then it's a very good quadrant 2 activity, or it's just not important, and then it's a quadrant 4 one, which is not urgent nor important. Then I shouldn't be doing that anyway. But that's a discussion that I need to have with my manager, with the people in those meetings. I decided to give them the benefit of the doubt and keep them in for now, but also question whether it is really important to have them or to have them that frequently. So this is what my schedule looks like. And what we now actually want to do is take next to it the planning or the activities that we wrote down for ourselves for the week and try to put them into this agenda to fill it up with the things that we really think are most important. So there's one important disclaimer here, that the actual method says empty your entire calendar and add in the things that you want to do and then plan everything around it. But as I just showed you, I mostly have quadrant 2 activities already planned, things that I think that are very important and not urgent, so I want to keep them in. I'm also a bit finding out how this works. All these activities are, of course, mostly pointed to my architect role, which is also my job, right? It's my day job, so I actually need to spend a couple of hours a day working on that. So I think during my work hours, it's fair that I spend most of the time on these activities. but you can still take into consideration the time that you have in between the spaces and the time that you have after work, that you can fill that up with the activities that are really core to your purpose in life. So I took some time to put all the actions that I had defined for myself into the planning, and I wanted to go through that shortly to show you how that is done. I used a lot of time after work to actually plan the things that are not related to work, which makes sense. But I also planned some things during work time because I know I have that liberty and I can catch that time up later. And now I have the peace of mind and the awareness to work on my YouTube video. So this is the best time for me. I also added, this is now by incidence Easter Monday, which was a day off here, but I used this extra day to add the other priorities into my calendar so that they're clearly visible to me in my mind. So the things that are not specifically really time-bound activities, but more things that I want to fill up some gaps or put my attention to when the time occurs during the week, I put them here. So things like reaching out to my parents, planning some stuff with my friends, I can just do that in between. I don't need to schedule half an hour for that. That feels a bit too restrictive to me. And I'm texting with my friends all the time anyway. So just making sure that that's the thing that I wanted to do. Let's make it happen. That was quite important for me. And then all the things that I wanted to do, work-related, non-work-related, I gave them a spot in my calendar, and I will try not to let anything reschedule that or push them away. And if I have to, I will make sure that I find a new slot immediately. As you can see, I also left a lot of open space. Some places where I know that I need to travel, that it's not super convenient for me to plan a lot of stuff, and also to give me a bit of freedom for spontaneous things. If you did all these things the way that I also just explained, or even in a slightly different way, how do you feel about the week that you have planned right now? And what difference would it make if you planned Q2 goals in each role each week and carried them out? Do you see the logic in putting in the first things first, so that you actually have prioritized the things that are also really most important to you? Next step is, of course, we made a super nice planning, but it's also very key that you try to show integrity in the moment. That means that you prioritize when the time is there, when the pressure is there, and that you try to remember and don't forget what we're trying to do. We're trying to focus on the things that are most important to us, so that at the end of the week we can say, wow, this was a great week. I had some struggles and there were some pitfalls and learnings and stuff, and I did by and large the things that I really wanted to do. So there are three things that you can do to make sure that that happens. You can preview the day, so you can see which activities are planned for the day and which roles they belong. You can try to see the day in the context of the week, so knowing that, what have I planned for today? If anything goes wrong, is there a possibility for me to shift it for tomorrow? Or am I preparing something specifically for the day after? So do they need to get done? And what kind of days will it be? Will I work at home? Will I work at the office? So try to preview that for yourself, and also revisit your mission. Really try to go back and remember, why are you doing it? What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of experiences do you want to have in your life? And not what does your boss tell you you need to do, but what kind of life do I want to lead? That should be really at the core of how you start your day. Second, prioritize. Look at which activities are Q1 and Q2 at the beginning of the day, to make sure that new meetings have not snuck in that are maybe a Q3 or Q4. Try to get rid of them as fast as you can. And also, if there are some meetings that are overlapping now with the meetings that you actually planned, try to consolidate that so that you already know what's coming and you know where your priorities are during the day, that you don't that you're as prepared as you could be for the meetings of this day. And you can also use a form of T-planning, which is you take a piece of paper, I think would be the easiest way. You write down all your activities, and on the left side, You list all the time-bound activities, so the activities that have to happen within a certain time frame. These can be meetings with people, like doctor's appointments, you name it, time-bound activities. And on the right side are non-time-bound activities, such as, for instance, reading a book or arranging something with your friends. That can happen at any moment of the day. It doesn't have to be in a specific time slot. And then the sixth point, maybe the most important, because as you can realize, there are quite a lot of variables in all these steps. And if you want to do this week after week after week, you have to make it come full circle and close the loop and say, what did we learn from the past week? So what goals did I achieve? Try to write that down. Which of the goals that you set out to do you actually did? What challenges did I encounter? What worked for me? What didn't work so well for me? So do I like to have the priorities on the side, or should I really give everything a specific time slot in the week? Basically, it's up to you. This is the proposal by me from experience and from the book. And what decisions did I make? Could I make the right decisions at the right moment? Or do I need to find a way to cultivate a little bit more the integrity in the moment and to come back in my mind to what is really important to myself? And in making decisions, indeed, did I keep first things first? Or was I persuaded to go with the more urgent activities and let my life be lived by that urgency addiction? Or could I indeed go and have my first things first, which would be the core goal of this activity? So if you follow each of these 6 steps, and now I'm explaining it to you, it might take a little bit longer than 30 minutes if you try to go through it the first time, but week after week, it should really not take you more than 30 minutes, especially if you have your personal mission already ready. If you have your roles more or less defined, you can copy paste them from last week, make some small changes that you realize, this is not the right description for the role, or these 2 roles, I can actually lump them together. And you can even copy paste some of the activities you couldn't do. It will go way, way faster. But what it does is it divorces you from the idea that there's always this clock ticking and you have to do more things in less time. No, now I had still a bunch of free space in my agenda, but I know that the things that I will do, they are really of core value to me. And I know that by the end of the week, I will have achieved some of them and I will feel great. And I have moved closer towards my goals and towards the purpose of my living. Guys, if you have followed along all of these steps, I promise you that you will experience a completely different week. Let me know in the comments how you experienced this. Please really give it a try. It only costs you 30 minutes a week. And if you don't try something else, you cannot expect anything else to happen. I really love the quote from Jim Rohn, who says, if you want to have more than you have to become more than you are. But also, as long as you don't change who you are, you will always have what you've got. And I want to leave you guys with that. Think about it. Think about this relatively small time investment that you can make. The investment you already made in watching this video, so good on you. But also sitting down, if you haven't already, answer these questions, write them down in a Word document, and try to just think about it. And think about how you can implement the 6-step method into your daily planning. Do it on a Sunday evening, do it on a Monday morning, whatever works for you. Yeah, I promise you, your life will change for the better. Have a great week. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you like this video, give this video a like. And don't forget to have a nice day.